was this season a moral victory for the 49ers? And I'm seeing a lot. This is the moral victory I'm seeing on social media. You know what? Their quarterback went down week 2. Then Jimmy Garoppolo went down. They were on their third string quarterback, and they went all the way to the NFC Championship game. That is remarkable. And, if it wasn't for a fluke injury, they might have won it. So really, this was just a tremendous success of a season, even though technically the Niners didn't win the Super Bowl.
I'm a firm believer that at the professional level, there's no such thing as moral victories.
So am I.
Yeah. I'm not in favor of that. To me, I'm 49ers. With the 49ers, it's Super Bowl or bust. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't have successes that we can look back on and be like,
it doesn't mean fire everyone.
Doesn't mean fire everyone or anyone necessarily. Well, maybe a couple people. We'll get to that. Not Kyle Shanahan. I'm not a guy to say it's fire Kyle Shanahan. I think he's a good coach. There's definitely things that he needs to improve and mistakes.
I want him to improve, not leave. I want him to improve.
Yeah. That's how I feel as well. But as far as moral victories, no, not at all. I'm not along that path of thought when it comes to professional sports. You either win or you lose, right? There's no one cares about silver or bronze in the NFL. It's did you go to the Super Bowl? Did you win the thing? If not, there's more to improve. Even if you do win a Super Bowl, you have to think about how can we improve? And that's the mentality I have. I know that's the mentality you have. And so that's what this offseason is going to be about for me, is just focusing on where we can improve. No moral victory.
Yeah, what's funny is when the Niners were in that 12-game winning streak, no one was talking about Brock Purdy, that he was the third-string quarterback. People were talking about Brock Purdy, that he was like Joe Montana 2.0, and he was going to be the starter next year. And wow, how'd the Niners get this diamond in the rough, right? And all of a sudden he gets hurt, and the Niners and people are like, well, I mean, look at what the Niners did with QB3. No, I thought that was QB1 for next year.
You can't have it both ways.
You can't have it both ways. And then what the Niners often say is they often puff up their chest. I'm not trying to be too critical, but they often puff out their chest and say we're the best team in the league, best defense in the league. We're the best. We're champions essentially, or we're about to be. And then when they come up short, they say like, "Hey, no one thought we would make it this far in the first place." What do you mean? That's what they said last year, and it's what they said this year. And it's, I guess, because of injuries or because of how they start the season, but I guess like lowering the bar in October doesn't mean that you can exceed that and not win the Super Bowl and be like, well, we still did better than people thought we would. I don't know. I feel like people have been calling this team a Super Bowl contender for 4 years.
Well, they have. And a lot of people, at least locally before the season, were saying that this is the best roster in the NFL, right? And I firmly believe this team has the best weapons in the NFL offensively. Now, defensively, I don't know if it's the best defense at the end of the day. Eagles defense looked pretty damn good with that pass rush, but it was a top defense. They had the pieces there to go far. They went far, but not far enough, and there's no moral victories. In regards to Brock Purdy, when we talk about that, look how far they went with QB3. Sure, he was QB3 before the season. Maybe he shouldn't have been. Here's the thing. He played the best out of all the 49ers quarterbacks this year. Now, maybe Trey Lance, if given time, would have played better than him.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
But what we do know, based on the sample we had, Brock Purdy was the best quarterback on the roster. So the whole QB3 thing, it doesn't sit well with me if he's the best quarterback on the team. If anything, that's a mistake, the fact that he was a QB3 and not QB1.
Yeah, and it's like if Brock Purdy had stayed healthy for this game, the Niners could have won, absolutely. But the fact of the matter is, the Niners got whooped on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball in this matchup. And that's a recipe for a loss. And the Niners are an excellent team, but so is Philly. Philly didn't even play their best. Their quarterback's hurt, and they out-physicaled the 49ers, who kind of carry themselves like bullies. And when you punch them in the mouth and beat them in the line of scrimmage, well, you see what the Niners do. 11 turnovers, guys getting ejected, hitting. They really played like bullies who were getting punked to an extent. And I understand the frustration. You don't have any quarterback. That's tough. But, yeah, that's how I feel about this team. I don't like their moral victory stance.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a moral victory guy. Even at the high school level as a basketball coach, we didn't have moral victories. Like, I just don't believe in that. You either win or you lose.
There's no good loss.
There's no good loss. And to your point about them getting beat up, like before the season, I think you and I both agreed that the biggest concern for the 49ers was the offensive line. There were some some people that emerged from that, like Banks, Aaron Banks, tremendous job. Trent Williams, great job. Burford, there's some light there. But I think the biggest concern for us before the season is ultimately a big part of why the season ended. They just didn't address the offensive line. If you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, that's an elite offensive line, right? 49ers didn't have that, and I think that's a big part of why the running game struggled at times this year, as well as why Brock Purdy was hurt. And I'm not
also
I'm
their
not
defensive line was highly overrated. Nick Bosa's great, but he lost a little steam, and the rest of the D line was what this year?
Yeah, and I definitely think we could speak on that.
Yeah.
But before I do, I want to say that I'm not convinced that the 49ers win that game, even if Brock Purdy stays healthy, with the amount of pressure that we saw quarterbacks getting the entire game. He could have been sacked several times in that game.
I agree.
So I just don't think the 49ers addressed the biggest thing. And in football, there's two things where you win. Honestly, it's in the trenches and it's with your quarterback. I don't know if the 49ers have a quarterback, and we didn't have an elite offensive line.
And what's going to happen with the Niners is they're going to have the highest paid left tackle in football, going to have the highest paid defensive lineman in football. That's great. But what's the rest of your trenches going to look like? Is it late round picks? Is it bargain guys? Like, what is it? They got to think about that.